Oh, hello. It's me, Lance Dean Anthony Nielsen, back from the cinema, literally like 20 minutes ago. I went to see Rise of the Footsoldier Vengeance. I think it's number 5 in the franchise. It's only the second one I've seen. No, I've seen 3 on the big screen. I've seen the first one, I've seen the second one, and I've seen this one on the big screen. So before I get into it, let's just talk about the film and who's in it a little bit. And for those people who are not familiar, this is part of a franchise of movies that tie very loosely, in the case of this film, to the true life Range Rover murders that took place in Rettendon in Essex in, I think it was 1993, I want to say, where 3 London gangsters were rather brutally murdered. And one of those who was murdered was Pat Tate. You can find videos of the real Pat Tate online. He's been played throughout the franchise by actor Craig Fairbrass. Now, just for full disclosure, before I do this review, I know several people connected to this project. Craig and I have had a project in development for some time that nearly got the green light with one of the major platforms and then didn't, which was a shame, but there we are. I also know Jason Mazza, who co-wrote the script, and I've met various people that are in the film apart from that. So, but I'm friends with 2 of the people connected with this project. So just for full transparency from the off, I just want to say that if I've got connections before I do a review, I always say so, because I just think that's the best way to be. So the Rise of the Footsoldier franchise is, I guess, what you would consider it to be the sort of modern gangster franchise since the first film came out, I think in the mid 2000s. Was it around 2003, I want to say? And they've been producing sequels every couple of years or so. Some of them, the gap's been a bit bigger. Now, I've got to be honest, I was not a fan of the last film. Same director, Nick Naverne. I just didn't rate it. It just felt very. It felt like it was. It just lacked any kind of sense of presence. It just didn't do anything for me. And look, I'm not a hater of these movies. I really got a soft spot for the first one. I actually quite like the second one. It's a very different kind of film, but I quite like it as a film just for what it is. And I have to say that I was quite impressed with this movie for a number of reasons. It's not a perfect film. It's not a fantastic film. But it's a worthy film for sure. And I'll get into my thoughts on all of that in just a second. So, stars my friend Craig Fairbrass, playing a role he's played several times already in the franchise. We're not going to rate it just yet. Let me just put my ad blocker on here. There we go. So I don't know how many stills they've got of the show here. Probably not that many, as it's only just dropped. So the story's pretty basic. It's a revenge thriller, as the title suggests. One of Pat Tate's friends, Kenny, who we've seen in previous films, who's played by Josh. I want to say his name's Josh Myers, but I might be getting that wrong. It is Josh Myers. Yeah, there he is. We'll get into the cast in just a second as well. He tries to do a drug deal on his own. It kind of goes wrong. Pat feels responsible, and Pat decides to get involved. The whole thing's set over a few days, which doesn't surprise me, because the original working title of the film was Tate 2 Days of Blood. And at no point was I ever bored when I was watching this film. It's written by Andrew Loveday, who also produces, who's one of the main producers at Carnaby Films, and co-written by Jason Mazza, who was an actor in the first Rise of the Footsoldier film and has since gone on to be a successful producer and actor in his own right in a number of other franchises and productions. Got a soft spot for Jason Mazza. I think he's a very underrated actor. I think we should see more of him in the acting role. The script for this is pretty decent. It's very lean. It doesn't waste any time, and it focuses on the story. Now, this is, I mean, it's a story of gangsters robbing gangsters. There are some things in the film that don't work for me. Um, there are some performances in the film that don't work for me, but on the whole, I think the cast is very strong. Technically, the film is extremely proficient, very well shot, extreme looks great. Some really good visuals, some really lovely setups for both London and Essex in the kind of sort of late 80s going into the 90s. There's a few shots where, you know, like Pretty Woman the musical was not on in London in this time period in any way whatsoever. So I mean, stuff like that could have easily been digitally removed, and I really think you know, there's no excuse for stuff like that in this film. It's not a massive expense to digitally remove a sign. I think attention to detail like that, they probably think most people don't care about it. I care, and I like watching films. So, you know, Nerdy UK is in the house. Fairbrass is currently putting in peak performances. I would agree. Craig is a much more versatile actor than people give him credit for. Keith E has just let me know he's watching. Thank you, Keith. And I mean, he's done some really great stuff in the not too distant past. If you check out a film like Muscle that he was in, you'll see a really interesting performance there. It feels like it's a familiar character, but it's a very, very different performance. And Fairbrass has played this character a number of times before, and the trailer's currently running for one of the earlier Foot Soldiers. Now, what this film's got that some of the others don't have is it's got Phil Davis, phenomenal actor, friend of mine also. Phil's attached to a number of projects of my own. He's also done an interview on the Outcast Creative channel. If you check under industry interviews, he is interview number 2. Nerdy saying he loved Muscle. Yeah, mate, I would give Muscle as a movie 8 out of 10, 8.5 even. Phil Davis is in a league of his own in this movie because he is an actor that just knows exactly how to play a role like this, completely reins it in, has a sense of menace. And I mean, Phil is not a big guy, right? If you meet him in real life, he's not a big guy. His presence in the scenes he's in this film are absolutely frightening. So he's fantastic in this. Tara Fitzgerald, another very competent actress. She's kind of wasted in her role a little bit. We don't see much of her. Margot, she's a bar owner and an aunt of one of the characters. I don't want to do too many spoilers. Sadie Frost crops up in it. Jeff Bell's an actor I've got a lot of time for. He's done some great performances in his career. He's really only in one scene in this movie, but he's great in that scene. So you've got some really quality actors in this film. You've also got the likes of Stephen McCall, who's an exceptionally gifted Scottish actor that I have seen in a number of other shows like Shetland. He played Moose Heiliger in Band of Brothers. You won't recognise him as Moose in this show, but he's an incredibly talented Scottish actor. Jamie Foreman is an actor whose career I have followed since his first performance, probably. And again, another actor I really like. He's not given a huge amount to do in the movie, but he's great in it. So all of these actors really inhabit their scenes. Their roles are very believable. They don't need to do a lot. Another one of my favorite actors who's, I guess he's up and coming, but he's been around for quite a while, is George Russo. You may have seen him recently in Criminal. He's also a bit of a writer. I dare say he'll go on to be a director in his lifetime. I rate him. I think he's a good actor. He's a nice guy as well, as it happens. He's very good in this. I have to say it, and it's a trait within the Foot Soldier films, and it's not a particular criticism. It's more an observation that once again the female roles in the film are massively perfunctory. they're pretty underwritten. There's one character who gets to do a little bit more than the rest, but they really are of little consequence. This is a predominantly a male-dominated world, as it was, I suppose, in a way, back in that day. It's not an unrealistic depiction, but I still think within that milieu, there's always room to write female characters that are a little bit more three-dimensional. And I would have liked to have seen a strong female character in this one, who did a bit more. There was one role that was pretty good, and I don't want to get into spoilers, but you've got a couple of actors who play policemen in the movie. This is really a film about the gangsters, and to be honest, their scenes didn't really add anything for the film for me, and they were the weakest element. So if I've got one major criticism about the film, it's that. But the performances of the cast, including even just people like Tommy May, who's done a fair few films. He's one of, I think he works with Dan Stiles quite regularly. In fact, I met Tommy recently at an industry event. Again, he really sticks out. He's good in this, you know. So there's a lot of people in this film that really do make their mark, both experienced actors and less experienced actors. I quite like Josh Myers. I think he's a decent actor, and he's fine in the role of Kenny. He knows exactly what he's doing with the part. So in terms of the story, overall the story is fine, but it built up to a big confrontation, which I was hoping was going to be a bit bigger. Now, I don't know if that was a budget restriction, or if you know, whether it was a script thing or what. But I just felt that the ending could have had a bit more oomph. It could have had a bit more of an epic feel. And something that I really hate in films, which is happening a lot at the minute, is people get shot about 3 or 4 times in what in reality would probably be a mortal wound. And this is not an Expendables film, okay? It's got a basis in reality. So when people get hit, you feel the pain, as you should. If someone gets shot twice in the gut by a pistol, I'm really not expecting to see them again in the final reel with their arm in a sling going, everything's all right. So there were some elements like that, which I thought, oh, really? But on the whole, one thing, one credit where credit's due, I believe the fight choreographer was Dan Stiles on this. I didn't sit through all of the end credits to double check. I guess we can have a quick look on IMDb now. It felt like Dan Stiles did the choreography. I spotted his cameo, getting his head slammed into the table. Dan and I shared a flat back in the day for one long summer. Lovely guy. And it's great to see him doing so well. And he's a cracking fight choreographer. And I'm going to suggest now that he probably was in charge of either the fight choreography, wasn't the second unit director. Okay, fair enough. But it felt like the fights were choreographed by Dan Stiles. So I just want to see if that was the case. Stunt coordinator. There you go. Yeah, Dan Stiles. So really lovely guy, doing a fantastic job. In fact, there he is on Rise of the Footsoldier 3. And the fights get more and more brutal that I see Dan choreograph. And he's clearly, you know, gained in confidence in terms of choreography and what he can achieve. The fights in this are fantastic. They're really on the money. And I'll give my credit to Nick Naverne, the director, as well. Because at no point in the film was I ever bored. There were some places where I felt I was taken out of the reality of the situation, and that happens occasionally. Not as often with this film as it has with some others recently. But I always want to feel like I'm in a real world. If I'm seeing a film like this, where you feel the pain when people get hit, when people get shot, I don't think they should be running around a reel or two later. That aside, overall, this was a pretty decent effort. I would definitely say, others have said it as well, it's definitely the second strongest film in the franchise. I quite liked the Marbella one, especially the first 20 minutes. Andy Loveday pops up in the film again, spoiler alert. And for a minute I was kind of thrown in terms of where does this come in the running order of the film. So I'm going to leave that open for you to find out. Now, about 30 minutes into the movie, I turned to my friend James Bush, who's an independent film director I went to see the movie with. And I said, mate, I feel like they're setting this up for a sequel already. Rise of the Footsoldier 6 Ibiza. And sure enough, in the last 10 minutes, that was exactly what we got. And it looks like we're all set up for a sequel, Rise of the Footsoldier 6 Ibiza. There's a couple of actors in this that I hadn't seen before. And if you've watched my other reviews, you know I like to give relatively unknown actors a bit of a shout out. And there was a couple that I saw that I thought were very, very good. So I do want to give them a shout out if I can find them. Ben Wilson, who played Billy the Kid. He had a significant role to play. Has an extremely moving scene with his dad at the end of the film. And I swear, honestly, I thought we were in a different movie at one point, because tonally, that's the only time we've really seen an emotional scene like that in the entire franchise, I think, with two people connecting on that level and somebody really feeling the loss over someone else at the time they're there. I'm not talking about the end of Rise of the Footsoldier 1. So Ben Wilson is an actor to watch out for. I really liked him. I liked his storyline. I think actually his storyline for me put the film, it was good that it had that storyline, because it involved aspects of homophobia, father and son relationship. We got a little bit of the gay scene of 1990 Soho, and I wasn't expecting to get any of those narratives in this film. And actually, the film was all the better for it, and all the better for Ben Wilson's performance. I look forward to seeing more of Ben Wilson in other shows. I'd say he's an actor to watch out for, 100%. Now, there's another actor I'd like to give a shout out to if I can find them. It's actually a more mature actor, but I don't see him. It's possible that he doesn't have a headshot, and I have to be honest, I am struggling to remember his character's name. But let me have another quick look, because I would like to give him a shout if I can see him. All the people that played the sort of the heavies were all very good. Let me see. Is this the guy? Yes, this is the guy I mean. So Anthony Scordi, and this is him in another role in The Offer, which, by the way, is an absolutely fantastic television series. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely watch it. He plays one of the villains in the piece. He is an actor who knows what he's doing. On the set, again, I was watching him, and I'm an acting coach. It's one of my other main jobs. I'm just looking to see if there's a still of him on his IMDb from... This is him in Blacklist. Well, let's go with that. So he's an actor of he's got a bit of experience behind him, and I didn't connect that it was him that was in The Offer when I was watching the film. I really rate him. I think he's fantastic. So again, anyone watching, particularly indie filmmakers, and I know a lot of you tune into my content. If you're looking for a sort of older Greek, Cypriot, Turkish, Middle Eastern man to play a serious, meaty role, maybe the father, or again, he could be a gangster of some kind. This guy, look no further than this guy. Fantastic actor, Anthony Scordi, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Please forgive me if I'm not. So I really rated him. I thought he was fantastic. Oh, I think I've covered most of the cast I wanted to give a shout out to. As I said, the female roles in the piece were really, they didn't have a lot to do. The scenes were very, very minimal. That doesn't mean that they weren't any good. It's just there wasn't anything for me to digest there. Yeah. So, what would I give this out of 10? That's a tough one because it's somewhere between 6.5 and a 7 for me out of 10 on IMDb, and you can't rate things by the half on IMDb. So I think I'm probably going to give this. One thing I didn't mention about it, actually. Sorry, before I wrap this up, one thing I want to talk about is the music. I thought the music for the movie was really good. Sound design in conjunction with the music was good, but there's several scenes where Glock guns are getting fired. And by the way, if they were Dan Styles' Glocks, they used to be mine. I sold him those. And Glocks don't sound like that when they fire. So I don't know what was going on with that. But the music, I really liked it. It had a really good atmospheric vibe. And it was done by Ross Power, who has done a number of scores, including Rise of the Footsoldier Origins. So he's worked with Carnaby before. Done a huge number of shorts. I think this is probably, this is only his second feature. So shout out to Ross Power for your music. I really liked it. I thought it was good. Good presence in the film. Nice mood building. So again, indie filmmakers, if you're looking for a man to score your feature film, check out the work of Ross Power. And I think he does work in sound design as well. So definitely a guy to look out for. Production design and stuff with the movie was all very good as well. It did have, apart from the obvious continuity gaps with things like Pretty Woman posters and whatnot, it did have a sense of its time. And I liked the exterior shots of Soho. I liked the fact that they got to shoot right in the middle of Chinatown. That was very effective. And I don't know if that was a Chinatown restaurant that they steamed into, but it certainly felt like one. So all of that stuff felt very authentic. So yeah, I think there was a couple of things I didn't like about it, but on the whole, I think this is definitely the second best of the franchise overall. And it's a worthy addition. If you like the other films, you're definitely going to like this one. So I'm going to give it a generous 7 out of 10. I probably would rate it. I'm just going to caveat that with saying if I could rate it 6.5, that's probably what I would rate it. And by the way, I only rate my own film 6 out of 10 on IMDb. So I'm pretty harsh on myself. Yeah, no, it's just good. And if you're into the gangster genre or you just want a good thriller, it's a good film. I felt it was quite restrained in terms of the bad language, which, by the way, I thought was a really good thing because when it was said, it had power. When you say the C word every other line, it just like, it gets a bit like, yeah, okay. And people just sound like they're saying it to be hard sort of thing. But the swearing in this was really reined in, and I thought the film really benefited from that. So that was another thing that was good about it. And so, again, my compliments to Andrew Loveday and Jason Mazza, who wrote the script, because I thought the script was pretty lean and pretty good. Yeah, so it's a 7 out of 10 from me, 6.5, but 7 out of 10 on IMDb. And if they're doing an Ibiza one, I'll quite look forward to that. They've definitely got, there's a few places they've definitely got a film in Ibiza if they're doing that. So yeah, I would like to see that film. I think that's it from me. Just to remind people, I'm back tomorrow night doing my Lone Wolf niche gaming stream. I don't know why I keep calling it that, but it is niche. And then I've got quite a few industry interviews lined up. I've just confirmed Jeff Farley today, who was one of the special effects key artists, makeup artists, as well as other effects on the last 2 seasons of Babylon 5. He did several pictures for Charles Band, as well as a whole load of other stuff. And he is still working in the industry right now. So I'm going to drop his IMDb in the chat. He is coming on the channel just this side of Halloween on the 7th of October. He's also worked on films like Demolition Man. He's worked on the remake of The Blob. Coming up, he's on Primevals, which is finally getting a release that started as a project back in the 80s, if you can believe that. So do check out Jeff Farley, no relation to the comedian Chris Farley. And he is coming on. He's going to be talking all things Babylon 5, Demolition Man, special effects. He's got 129 credits in films in the makeup department. He's got 115 in special effects. He's got 9 credits as a producer, and he's been working in the industry for 5 decades. So that's another great industry interview I've got coming up. I've got 2 directors coming on this side of Christmas, assuming we can get their schedules to work. I don't want to say who they are, but they are big directors. So really looking forward to a lot more exciting content on the channel. Spread the word, like and subscribe. If you want to see my personal video about my quest to find my Danish relatives, that's on the channel. I did that last night. I have got a little bit of progress on that. I have found some of my I found the family of my father's first fiance, Ingrid Petra Haki. Sadly, I can confirm she did pass away in 2004. My quest for searching for my 2 cousins, Mariana and Mette Nielsen, continues. I'm hoping to get more news on them. I'm going to do an update video probably this time next week. I think I'll do an update video. I've also found a load of photographs of my Swedish cousins. I've got them here. I don't want to get those out right now at the end of this review. It's changing topics somewhat, but I'll be doing a stream. I'll be doing an updated stream about all of that. So if you did watch that video yesterday, that's coming. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in to this gut reaction. My compliments to the team. I do think this is a very solid film. Technically, it looks fantastic, and it's a good addition. It's a good addition to the franchise. And if you like the franchise, you know what you're getting. It does what it says on the tin. With that said, that's it from me. Don't forget to tell the people that you care about that you love them, and I'll see you again real soon.